Hello everybody, welcome back to another one of these videos. Real quick before we actually get into it, I figured I would let you guys know more clearly what my plans are for the near future. I'm not going to lie, it is getting towards the end of the semester for me, and it is extremely busy, so I'm probably going to be sticking to one video a day for the near future. Or not one video a day, sorry, one video per week, just one of these. I do have other videos I will publish eventually, but currently I really don't have time to be recording once every 2 days like I was able to in the past, so we'll just be keeping it to this kind of schedule for now. But anyway, without any further ado, we can go ahead and get back into it. I've played this game some since I last recorded, but not really a ton. It was mostly working on, like, stuff in here, that kind of thing. So, if I recall, I believe we were working through this, so we'll just go ahead and get into it. Yes, that's right. I don't think this is the beginning. It is. Cool. Okay, so we will be starting with Negation Snake. I guess one thing we can immediately consider is whether it's possible to have the snake end here. Then we get 1, 2, 3, 4. One thing to know that is that it will have to also end in here just because it needs to hit exactly one of these mines, but doing so causes it to stop. So then we have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We can see that's an odd number. This is even, so therefore it cannot go into here, and this is where we can begin. So now then we can kind of notice that if the one mine is here for this one, then we know that the 0 needs to have a mine down here, but that puts both of the endpoints around here, which is impossible since we know there has to be an endpoint there. We can then conclude that the mines are in both of these positions for this 0 and 1 pair. So there we are. Okay. 0 goes up there, we can then mark off this. And alright. So now then, if the remaining mine for this one is right here, we once again have 2 endpoints. We know that can't be the case, so there we are. And I believe the same thing is true, yes, if this mine down here is mine, or rather that square down there is mine, so we know it is not, therefore I must go around here. Okay. So now then, one other thing we can notice is that if there is a mine here, then we already have 4 mines around this 0. In order to get back down, these ones must also be mines, and that makes it into a loop, which isn't allowed. So we then know that this one is not a mine, right there, and that this thus must head out either here or the other way. I believe if it goes out this way, though, this will run into problems because we have 1, 2. We know it's going to need to go into here, so then we can say 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which is not the correct parity. So we can then conclude that it must go up like this, and this one must instead just head out straight. We know that it can't still go around there because that would result in too many endpoints. This one is now also finished. We can mark off that. And okay, we can now see that this area is just entirely disconnected, so we can completely fill all of it in. And, alright. I guess the next thing to consider is if there are any other pieces of information we can find out. Like, for example, can it go into here? If it does, then it needs to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which then puts 6, 7. Can't go into there, so we have 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it would have to be something like this, which does seem possible. Yes. Okay. So then maybe it's worthwhile to consider what happens if it comes out of just each of these naturally. So first of all, if it goes out of this, then we know it either has to head down or upwards. I guess if it heads down, then it just forces none of these to be filled in. Because we already showed that if they're filled in, it implies it has to go around there. So then we get 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we need 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I actually don't think it's possible to fit 12, or rather 8 more into here, right? Because, if we're trying to like be as optimal for space as possible, it would be something like this, right? So then we have 8, 9, 10, 11, which is barely short of what we need. So I think that then tells us that if we do go out of here, it needs to head upwards. But then we only have 4 here. We still know it can't go in there because this is our other endpoint. It can't go over here because it would loop back, so then I would need to go 5, 6, 7, 8. Once again, not enough. I think this is enough to conclude that this one is not a mine. It is, so we can now mark these ones going upwards. Okay. So I guess now the next thing to consider is if this one can be not a mine. If that one isn't a mine, then neither of these are mines. And then we need to fit 10 more into here. We know this one will head upwards in this case. We also know now that none of these can be mines. So then we need 9 more. You can see there really isn't a way to shove 9 more into here. Like, I think this is more or less the best we can do. We can, like, shift around stuff so it goes, like, up here, for instance, but ultimately it's the same number of mines, and this is just not enough. So I think that tells us that this one at least has to go here. And now, given that this would be theoretically the other endpoint, like, for example, if this one is not a mine, then we know from our parity argument earlier, there just aren't, rather, it's just not going to add up properly. Like, we could get 4, which is even, but we need an odd number of mines. So we know that this one must extend up here at least. Now then, I guess next we can consider if this one is not a mine, what happens? I suspect that's probably going to happen because we'll build a force that it goes around like that, but we can double check. So once again, we know none of these are mines, this one is a mine, and we need to fit 7 more into here. You can see the best we can do is fitting 5, so that tells us both of these are mines, which now then tells us that this group will connect up here somehow, whether that means it goes up like this or just this. Either way, we know, first of all, that this one here is not a mine, this one is a mine, and given that there are at most 3 up here, we know this one must at least extend out 2. I think we can also can guarantee that it goes this way, because if it goes over here, for instance, then this forces this pattern, but that doesn't give us enough mines. So we know it has to head this way. We also then know this is not a mine, and here we go. This one is now finished, so that tells us it goes over here, and yeah, as I predicted, it was indeed that pattern. So there we go. Okay, now we have balance cross. Since we're doing 7 by 7, the balance rules actually work out where there are 3 in each row and column. So we just need to keep that in mind. Okay. So first of all, I guess this 4 is just finished. I could have already seen that, and that finishes off this entire column. This 1 is finished, and this 2 is also completed now. There we go. We also now know that since there need to be 3 in this row, one of them must be in this pairing right here, the other 2 must be here. No mines can be there then, because it would overload the 2. This 3 is now finished. And we then know that for this column, there's 1 more mine in here. That tells us the last mine for this 3 must be over there. This 2 is now finished. There we are. Okay. I guess the next thing to consider is that this row is finished itself as well. And that tells us that there must be 1 mine in this group here, because the remaining 2 for this column must be up there. Same thing for this column, actually. We know that there are 2 mines in this region, so that tells us the 3rd mine for this column is here. No mines can thus be there. And, okay. We also now know that since there's only 1 more mine in this row, since we already have 2, that puts this 4 up to having 3, so there must be a mine up here. We also then know there can't be a mine there. Okay. That finishes off this 4 right here, and what else? Well, we know that there's going to be exactly 1 mine over here, and then given the fact that there are 2 mines here, yeah, I'll probably just draw this out real quick, right? Oh wait, never mind, no. There's only 1 mine over here, right? Because we know this from the row, the 3 that needs 1 more mine to be finished. And that tells us that the remaining 2 mines for this column are up here. That finishes off this 4, which then just lets us guarantee that there's exactly 1 mine down here. Okay, so this 2 is now finished. This row entirely appears finished. We can finish off that 4. And what else can we get from here? Okay. Well, first of all, we know there's exactly 1 mine over here. We know there's 1 mine in this region as well. And, okay. I suspect they're probably going to have to do something now with maybe this 1. Like, assume, for instance, that there is a mine in this region and see if that leads us to, like, a contradiction or something. Right, because then we get all of these are true, which then tells us there is a mine down here, which then for this 3 tells us there is a mine here. So what that does tell us then is that there can't be a mine here, because we just assumed generally that there's a mine in one of these 2, and that told us the mine had to be up there. So if the mine was down here, that would lead to contradiction. There we are. We will now instead generally assume that there is a mine down here. I guess we can also confirm, yeah, this fits everything fine. Okay, so there's a mine down here, there's no mine here. That tells us there is a mine up here. Neither of these are mines. We can now see in either case this one is not a mine. But this has also now led us to a contradiction with the red assumption, namely that there still has to be a mine here, so we can just go ahead and actually finish up this puzzle now. There we are. Okay, Next one is quad eyesight. Alright, so first of all, this is a standard eyesight technique. We know that since the difference between these two is 2, and they're on a wall, these two must be filled in. By quad, we then know that both of these are the case. This one just from quad, and that one from the difference ideas before. Now we know that's there as well. That must be filled in. Same difference idea. 1 and 2 right here, so we can fill in that. Okay. I guess the next thing to consider is what happens if this 3 extends out here. If this happens, we know there must be a mine here, but this doesn't actually leave enough room for this 5 to get 2 more than the 3 horizontally. So we know that this one right here must be a mine. That then tells us that this 5 only extends 1 more out, which tells us it doesn't actually matter which one of these two it is. It does tell us that this one here must also be a mine, so that, and this actually allows us to more or less finish up this entire general area as well, just through more or less kind of just working through each of these assumptions. Ow, hold on. I'm gonna have to pause this real quick. Alright, I am back. Sorry, I got a call. I'm probably just gonna splice these together, so it'll probably just be more or less seamless, but just wanted to keep you guys in the know. I did indeed get called. Alright, anyway. Where was I? Yes. We need to figure out what to do about these things now. So first of all, I guess we can, I don't know if this is going to be where to look, but we can kind of break this up like such. We then just get this as our kind of situation. If it goes up here, and if we instead have a mine up there and it goes down here, we then, I guess either way we see that this one must be a mine, but that isn't a particularly useful piece of information. And yeah, that one tells us nothing about up here. I guess, given that we only have 4 mines left, we can probably make some deductions from there, correct? Because we know that there will always be at least 1 mine over here, 1 mine over here. I guess in the yellow case, we're only left with 1 mine to kind of deal with this 3, which I don't actually think is enough. No, because if there are a few possibilities for the 3. One of them is that it does something like this, in which case we would need 2 mines. If it goes over here, same situation. And if it instead starts by going downwards, then we still need a mine here for quad. So I think that just tells us that it has to be red. That is accurate here. So then we can mark in all of these. And we can also notice that for the 3, we're still going to need 2 mines somewhere around it, right? Like, nothing about this has really changed. I guess the only thing that's changed is that this could also be a possibility, but we still need 2 mines, so we know this one cannot be a mine. None of these mine positions have had stuff here, and there we go. This allows us to now finish up the puzzle. So we'll now move on to a connected multiple. This one shouldn't be too bad, I don't think. Okay. So now then we know that regardless, we can only have at most 1 mine in the blank cells right here. If we have 2, then that implies that we have 3 because we need to get it back up to an odd number, and that will overload this 1. So either way, we know both of these need to be filled in. We can go ahead and do that. Same thing actually applies to this 5 here. We know both of those and both of these, so that kind of gives us something to work with. Okay. I guess the only real thing left is this 4, where first of all, we can start by seeing what happens if we put no black mines around it. Then we goes through here, and that then tells us this must be the case. If we instead do have 2 black mines around the 4, we know that one of them will be here, one of them will be in this region right here. We'll go and get rid of that for now. That tells us that there are no mines in either of these 2 positions, which then tells us that this one is never a mine. Okay. So now, given our 2 possibilities, we can see that either way this one here can't be a mine, so we can mark that. Now neither of these are mines. Okay. I guess we can real quick in the red case just mark this one is not a mine now. This one is a mine, so that tells us that this one over here is also never a mine. Okay. So in the red case, we then get that there's always a mine up here, just because that one's a 4. So we can then safely mark both of these as well. The yellow case, this one is also not a mine, so there we are. And, okay, this one's always a mine. The red case, this one's a mine, and the yellow case, it is not. Cool. And I'm just going to get rid of that smudge real quick. Okay. So I guess one thing we could see now is that in the red case, we have a disconnected group because this region right here can't really go out either way. That's not allowed by connected, so we then know that the yellow case is the one that we're actually dealing with. So we can then fill in all of this stuff. I'll just erase the marks for now. We know that this has to go out here, and we can also see that we can't have two black mines for this one because one of them will be disconnected, so it must be the case that it is a gray mine. We can then fill in all of these. This one's already at 6, so that's the only way to get up to 8 properly, and okay. Now we only have 3 mines left. We already know that 2 of them will have to be around the 7, specifically 1 gray, 1 black, so that means that we can't have mines in either of these 2 positions because neither of them are able to connect out by themselves. Or I guess they're not adjacent to potential mines. Then for this one, we can see that there must be a mine here. Even though we know the last 2 mines are here, neither of these are mines. This 5 is already finished, and okay. Tells us there is a gray mine here, and this one needs to leave, so it needs to go through there. There we are. Okay. So now that we're done with the plus exclamation mark 7, yeah, we can see that we have unlocked this. I still need to unlock stuff for it to be full, so this is actually what the grid looks like if you don't have everything unlocked, which is kind of interesting. For this one, I've already unlocked everything. So I guess I'm not sure what my goal was back when I was finishing up the stuff. I think I'll just continue and unlock the 8x8 grid as well. So we can just go ahead and start getting into it. First we have a triplet wall. Alright. This one will be interesting. Triplet wall logic is always a bit of a struggle. But yeah. Okay. I guess one thing to initially consider is that this one is very restricted on what it can actually be, and I'm pretty sure it's the case that regardless of like how you set it up, it's always going to at least involve 1, if not 2 of the... Or rather, I think it'll at least have the 2 region next to this one too. Right, because like either it will have the 2 region just already next to it, or it will have 2 like 1 regions next to it, which will then push one of them into being the 2 region. Okay, so then what that tells me now is that we can't, for the 1-3, have this as a group. So that then means it's either going to be something like this, or it will be something that involves this one here. So I guess it could be that or this. Cool. Okay, I don't know if this really gives us a lot of information on its own, though. I suspect there's probably something more about the 1-2 structure that we can find, like for instance, maybe every possible orientation of it has some cells that it just doesn't allow. That could be the case pretty easily. Okay. One thing I guess that we can see is that if it is the purple orientation, I'm actually just going to get rid of these yellow things. I guess here's something I can do real quick. Maybe I'll just see if this directly leads to a contradiction with the 1-2. I feel like it probably should, but this will be a good way to confirm. So first of all, we then get all of this. That then tells us that both of these must be filled in, which is then a contradiction, because this one isn't filled in by row 2, but in order for this 1-2-2 to exist, it implies these. So yeah, now we know that this one can't be the case. Okay, cool. So now we can start by doing all of this stuff. And, okay. So now, yes, we know that there has to be at least 1 down here, which means that basically this one can't ever be a mine in this case. And once again, yeah, I don't think it's possible to not have multiple, which then says that the row of 2 one must be down here, which implies that this one is not a row of 2. Right, because the only way we could make this work is by just already having a 2 region by it. And that just has to do with the fact that, with the way this thing kind of works with its like differences. So first of all, we can get that. Now, if we... And I guess something else we can also notice is that this 2 region must always include the center cell, because it's not going to be a like 1-2 thing where it's on either end, because that breaks it. It'll have to be here. Okay. So now that we've done this, we can then see that either, for this case, there will be 1 here, in which case we get none of these. We're going to have to probably split this one up into multiple cases as well. In this one, we then get that both of these are mines, which then says that neither of these 2 are mines as well. We also then know that this one must be a mine. So cool. Or alternatively, we get all three of these are mines, which then says that neither of these are. If this one isn't a mine, then we get a mine in one of these two regions. Either way, based on the fact that we know that there will have to be at least two down here, that then says that none of these three can be mines, because there will be two down here and there's one up here. Cool. Now then, if we next assume this last case here, we once again get that this one is not a mine, we also get that this one isn't a mine, and neither are either of these. Okay. So based on this, we know that both of these will be mines, which then says this one could be a mine. It could also not be a mine, I guess. So I guess it is possible to actually only have one down there. It would just have to be through this kind of structure. But that still does disallow this, which I think is what's important. So I think we can then mark that. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Cool. So now then, what we do know, and I got rid of all this just because I think that now it's much more relevant to think about things in terms of this 1-1, right? We know that there will be a mine in one of these two positions. There can't be two blanks. If there's a mine here, then we also get a mine down here, which then tells us all of this. An alternative is if there's a mine here, then we know that either way there will have to be a mine here. Once again, and then in order to finish up the 1-2, we get this, but the mine here actually breaks things with this 1-1 now. So we know that there has to be a mine here. Which, yes. Okay. And then from here we get all three of these are mines. This all works out fine. And we also get that is not a mine. Okay. And then from here we also can see that either way all of these must also be mines. There we are. And given that this is a region of size 2, we know it needs to go there. And now we have a 1 and a 2. Either way, these will occupy both of these cells, so we can mark in these, mark in that. And, okay. Cool. I guess the next thing to kind of think about here is we know that for this 2-1, there are a few possibilities. One of them is this, which then gives us a mine here, no mine there. And then we know this region of size 3 must go exactly there. We know it can't be something on the top because that would form a row of 3, which isn't allowed. So then that gives us all of this information. And also this one's in a mine. The alternative would be that we have a group of size 2 up here like such. So first of all, that gives us both of these. Cool. That would also tell us in this case that goes up here, in that case it goes up there. Either way, this one up here is not a mine. So there we are, and we can also just mark off, I guess, both of these for completeness. This also just gives us that information as well. Okay. And so the next thing we can kind of think about from here is that this one will not be a mine. That tells us this is a mine. That's just from the row of 3 property from before. And we also know that this one can't be the group of 3 because it would cause a row of 3 to exist here. So then that tells us, since it needs to bend a corner, that it would go like such. You can then mark in both of these as, I guess, a mine and a non-mine, respectively. We can see that in the yellow case, this 1-1 actually isn't satisfied, so we now know it must be the red case. So we can then start just, I'll just click through some of this. Yeah, we can fill in all of that. This 1-2-2 is also now finished. We can mark in both of these, finish up that row of or that group of 3. And this one is also now finished, as is this. That's a row of 3, so we can fill in that. Mark that by our triplet rules. And now lastly, we also know both of these are mines. That one isn't. This 1-1 is now finished like that. And there we go. The puzzle is now completed. Alright. So we will now go ahead and move on to this negation outside. Okay. So first of all, I guess we can consider what happens if this one is a mine. We then know that these two can't both be mines, so that tells us this one is finished like this. That gives us all of this information as well. Whereas if this one is not a mine, then we still, well, I guess actually for this one right here, it tells us this one down here must be a mine. Yeah. Whereas if this one's not a mine, then neither of these are mines. So we know that this one up here will never be a mine. Okay. We can actually now see that this 2 must have exactly 1 out here. That tells us that the yellow case is not correct, so we can just mark in both of these that we would like. Fill in that as well. And this one now needs to be finished, so we can mark in all of this stuff. Fill in that as well over there. Okay. Given that there are 2 over here, we know there has to be 1 over here that's filled in. And then the basic idea is if this one's filled in, we'll always have an odd number on this side, which isn't allowed, because the parity on each side needs to remain the same. So we can just fill in that real quick. We then know that the 1 has to be over here. If it's over there, it'll still have to extend outwards by outside rules, so we can fill in this as well. And okay, this needs to extend outwards, but given that this one's an even number on this side, and it's an even number on that side as well, so we can mark this, not allowing checkerboard. We can then fill in both of those heading out. Fill in these as well, just to finish up their outside rules. So there we go. And that finishes up this one as well. That 0 is finished, this 1 is finished. We know that this one can't be a mine just because of the same even logic, I guess. So we can fill in that now. And okay. The next thing we can consider is that we need to have exactly an even amount on this end right here. I don't know how much this really tells us, though. It basically just tells us it'll either be this mine right here, in which case both of them are already accurate, or it'll be this mine up here, in which case, once again, both of them are accurate. We could fill it in this way, though. It doesn't really change anything. I don't really think that gives us a lot of information. It might be more useful to instead think about these ones up here with this 0. For example, if we fill in that one as a mine, then we know neither of these could be mines. And so, what do we get? Well, first of all, we knew that this one was already split between a case where either this one up here must be a mine because that one isn't filled in, or if this one up here is a mine, then both of them must be mines. So we can just say that that one's always a mine and be accurate. Okay. Whereas in the other case, if the mine is down here, then we know that one is not a mine, and I think it's more or less all the information we get. Yeah, is it possible for this one right here to not be a mine in this case? I believe it is. It would just require both of these, and oh no, that actually breaks things. So never mind, this one always just has to be a mine, I guess. Cool. Yeah, it took a sec, I think, just because the way that it does, like, logic, I guess, or finding out if the thing you made is logically deducible is through the same system as the hints, which can be a bit long. So, yeah, that's kind of interesting, though. And, okay. So that means that in the red case, if this one is a mine, then we know this one has to be a mine. Otherwise, neither of these are mines. Correct? Yeah. So I think then that gives us either way. I don't think there's a way for this one up here to be a mine, because then it would force both of these and this one not to be a mine, but that breaks our even structure. So I think we can then conclude this one is just never a mine. Yep, there we are. Okay. So in either case, we know there must be an even number of mines up here. Correct? Yes. Which, okay. So let's assume this one isn't a mine, then we can't have both of these as mines, so that just tells us there are no mines up there. That's one possibility. I think that actually I don't know why I used yellow for this. I should use different colors because these are independent of what's happening over there. So this is one possibility. The other one is if there is a mine here, then in either case, we know that this one must also be a mine, and then in order to finish off evenness, that can't be a mine, but we can see that we've actually left both ones not correct. This one's a 0, this one's a 2. So I think that then tells us, and we don't really need that at this point, that regardless, we know that this one has to be a mine, neither of these, or none of those can be. We can fill in that, we can fill in this, the 0 needs to be finished, this one needs to be finished, as does this. Fill in that for outside rules, and okay. Now we have 7 mines left. I suspect there's probably going to be some global argument about, like, we need to fit a certain number of mines around this 1 or something like that. We know that the maximum we can fit around the 1 is incidentally 7, so maybe it'll have something to do with that. I'm not completely sure. I guess we can think about if there are no mines around this 1 versus if both of them are mines, because we know those are the 2 possibilities, right? So if there are no mines, then we are left with exactly 8 cells that we can fill in. However, we know there can only be 5 around this 1, so both of these must be 1s. And then, given that there are 5 around this 1, well, we can think real quick. So first of all, this possibility is not valid, so there needs to be a mine here. Same within this corner. We could do something like this. We do not get a valid combination. Okay. And so now then, I guess this is all you'd really be able to get from it, because, like, for instance, we could have all 3 of these be non-mines, or we could have just 2 of them, and it doesn't really matter where if we assume this one is a mine. Okay, so now then I guess the other possibility is that both of these are mines, in which case, what else can we determine? I guess I'm not completely sure, to be honest, what really we can get from here. There should be something that we can gather, but... Right, well, I guess one thing we can think about first of all is if both of these are mines, then we further can subdivide between if this set of 2 are mines or not, because we still know there need to be an odd number around here. If these are mines, then we get this as well, which is actually not allowed, because it separates this group of any non-mines from the rest of the mines. So what this then tells us is that neither of these are mines, which then allows us to determine that once again we have 5 more mines around this one. But I think that given where there isn't a way to fit 5 more mines around here without breaking outside rules, right? Because this thing, yes, there need to be at least 2 non-mines in this region for this one to ever connect up with anything. However, that would imply there are only 4 mines at most in here, which isn't allowed by our total mine count. So we can then conclude that yellow is accurate. Yep, there we are. We now need to finish up that. We can also mark in both of these. And get rid of all these pencil marks. And okay. In order to finish up this, we need a mine here. And there we go. That finishes the puzzle. And I think this is where I'm going to call it for today. Sorry about the pause in the middle of the video. It's just, yeah, I had to pick up a call. Once again, I guess I don't think it really matters, though. I don't think it's going to be noticeable. But yeah. Have to edit that later. Alright, either way, next time I think the goal will be to finish up this and then maybe start working towards unlocking some of these, like, so we can maybe make this look nicer. And eventually my goal with this is to go through here, unlock all of this, probably do some examples of each of these. This one I haven't actually completed one yet for, just because connected is hard. And from there, I don't know. That honestly might take enough time where, like, I don't know if I'm going to keep this series running long term. Maybe I will, because, like, I mean, there's functionally infinite puzzles in this game. Like, there aren't, but, like, currently I think the person who's completed the most has completed, like, 27% of them, and that is the easiest 27%. So, like, functionally I could keep the series going for a while if people wanted that. We shall see. Either way, thank you so much for watching. I will catch you next week. Peace.